born in Littlehampton, Sussex. Fantastic. In 1971, the son of a British mother and a Jamaican father, David was raised by his single mother and his maternal grandparents in Sussex. Well done. They did a good job.
Well, thank you. I hope so.
He studied for a BSc in chemistry at the University of St Andrews, graduating in 1993, before completing a PGCE for teaching at the University of Bath in 1995, and a Master of Research degree in chemistry at the University of Southampton in 1998. He taught chemistry between 1995 and 2016 at schools in the UK, Botswana, Bosnia, Herzegovina, thank you, Bermuda and the United States. David is a British politician who has served as leader of the Heritage Party since September 2020. He previously was a member of the London Assembly from 2016 to 2021. I've seen some of your battles with Sadiq Khan. Yes. You did very well, thank you. Yeah. He was elected as a UKIP party candidate. He subsequently left the party in 2020. He characterises himself as social conservative. Over to you, sir.
Well, all right. Thank you so much. I don't know if you were going to thank me for being here, because actually for the first time in about 20 months I've got a cold. So I've been sniffling away here. So it's funny coming up on the train, because I sort of like sneeze, and then the people around would look at me like I'm a terrorist. All I'm doing is sneezing because I've got a cold. It's just so bizarre, I think, how people have been programmed in order to act and think and speak in a different way. And, you know, for most of my life, I've just been minding my own business, taking everything at face value and just thinking, well, you know, if people say something, then they mean what they say and so on. But I've started to notice in politics, particularly getting into politics, which I've been actively involved in since 2015, people don't always say what they think and what they mean. People sometimes try to deceive you. And they also try to make up ways of speaking, which I find quite disturbing. And when I was on the London Assembly, I first got to hear about something that TfL has, and TfL stands for Transport for London, and of course that's one of the things that the Mayor of London is in control of. And when I was there, I heard of something called a Behavioural Insights Unit. And what they do is they try to work out how to get people to behave in certain ways and act in a certain manner without them realising that they're even doing it. So they're trying to plug into your subconscious and unconscious mind in order to change your behaviour. Now this was just TfL, I'll move on from this in a minute. But one of the things I noticed, and you might have noticed as well, a couple of years ago, if you walk to London Bridge Station, and you walk up the escalators onto the platforms, they're platforms, 1 to 9 or something. A couple of years ago, there appeared this huge, angry yellow box, and it said, "No waiting," in big capital letters. And the effect of that was, I suppose, to try to encourage people not to wait at the top of the escalators because they had a problem with that. But I just noticed it was very, very striking when it first happened that someone had decided, in order to try to get people not to do that, they would make a huge angry yellow letters and paint them on the floor all over the platform. And that's just one example of what these behavioural insights people do. But of course we all know behind the mainstream media, which is always trying to manipulate our minds and everything using neuro-linguistic programming and language and so on, then you've got the government, and behind them lies SAGE, and many of the people on SAGE are behavioural psychologists. And there's all these new, there's almost a whole new vocabulary that has grown up. And sometimes it's very, very difficult to counter that vocabulary, rebut that vocabulary in a way that will not let them come back and attack you very, very quickly and easily. And that's what they do. So we often have a battle of words in debating and in politics, but has sort of gone beyond politics into the media and into wider society. And one of the key phrases I find that I hear people using all the time, and Sadiq Khan used to do this because he was a big propagandist, and he kind of launched into some pre-prepared answer and ended up saying, we need to listen to experts, not conspiracy theorists, which are two other phrases that get thrown out at me and people like us maybe all of the time. And I'm thinking, how do you counter these? Because you need to counter these phrases because they're very powerful phrases. When someone accuses that I don't mind myself, it just, it's like water off a duck's back to me. But it does affect millions and millions of other people around who we need to bring over to our side, and they are also affected by this, and they don't want to be called because they're scared of being labelled as something which the media, the government, the behavioural psychologists will try to paint you as someone who's crazy and not worth talking to and whose opinion is worth nothing. Now, I would say that I am not against the scientific principle of a vaccine, which is that when someone is exposed to a weakened or deadened or attenuated pathogen, it trains your immune system to recognise a stronger pathogen when you come into contact with it. And as I was a science teacher, I used to teach kids all about Edward Jenner and the story of him inoculating a small boy against smallpox with cowpox. But that was a pure, weaker version. Cowpox is a weaker version of smallpox, effectively. But that was a pure pathogen, which was weaker. So I think there are, to counter these phrases, you need to really speak quite intelligently. And if you speak scientifically, then the sort of media interviewers won't actually know how to come back at you. And because I've got a science background, I haven't actually been invited onto any mainstream media platforms to talk about it. I wonder why they don't want me on. I think, I'd sort of have them for breakfast. I'd like to go on sometime and talk to some of these Dr. Hillary or whatever. Dr. Hillary, if you're watching, let's go, you and me, let's debate. But there's also other things that we need to question as well, which I think are legitimate questions that we should be able to ask and hypothesise scientifically without being cancelled and shut down and thrown out of debates. So those are the things that I think we should ask, particularly as they are running down through the age ranges. And we know this is happening because, first of all, last year it was 15 million jabs to freedom, wasn't it? Just jab the elderly. I don't know why they're picking on the elderly, but they would jab the elderly and the vulnerable, and then we could be free. But then it was not 15 million, then it was everyone over 50, then over 40, then over 21, then over 18, 16. Now they're coming for our kids. If that's what you want to do, take them. But if you shouldn't be coerced into doing it, and I think it's absolutely appalling that I've heard in some schools people are being made to feel like they're second-class citizens if they don't take a jab, and in some places they're now being given yellow stickers to put on them, which I think is absolutely appalling. People don't really have much memory of history there. But this is going on around the world. The other thing is, the other phrase that people use and throw at us is conspiracy theorist. Well, there's the old joke, well, it's not an old joke now, it's probably a new joke, is what's the difference between a conspiracy theory and a fact? So it's about 6 months. I'm sure some of you know that one, because, you know, I was speaking out, and Neil and many other people were speaking last year and saying, look, these vaccine passports are coming. And some people were saying, no, that's just a conspiracy theory, that's not going to happen here. And it's happening, and it's happening all around the world. And after that, people were saying, well, there's going to be quarantine camps and so on to put people who are unvaccinated in. And that's ridiculous. That's a crazy conspiracy theorist. They built huge ones all over Australia. And I don't know if they've built them here in this country. I don't think so. Well, there's Wellingborough. I don't know if that's just a normal prison extension or not. I don't know. But we'll see what happens with that. But in other countries, they are building them as well. So this is conspiracy theory to actual fact is going on. We know what the plan is, and we've got to wake up people to not get this digital identity. And I caused a bit of a stir today by saying on social media that I declined an invitation to speak at a conference next month. And at the moment, you see, they're not making the injections mandatory for everybody in England, unless you're unfortunate enough to be a care home worker, in which case you've been thrown out of your jobs if you don't have a vaccine, or in the end they're going to do it to NHS staff later on. But what they are trying to do is just get people used to the digital identity system. And you're finding it, they're using it in Wales and Scotland and Northern Ireland now to get into sports venues and large venues, but it's also creeping in England as well, with businesses just doing it of their own volition, even though it's not required by law in England that you have to do it. But I absolutely point blank refuse to speak, and I won't ask people to do it to come and listen to me. I think that's absolutely wrong. I mean, so that's something about the just political debate. Of course, Chris mentioned there, I'm the leader of the Heritage Party, so I'm trying to make a difference with the Heritage Party in the political sphere, because I think all the old parties are complicit. And so I'm standing myself in the by-election next week in Old Bexley and Sidcup, so I hope... I'm hoping this would be amazing, wouldn't it? If we wake up on Friday morning and I'm an MP. That would be so fantastic. I'd love to do that. I saw them out, I'll tell you. So the election's on Thursday. I'm hoping for a good result. We're doing everything we can to get a good result there. And we've also got a great candidate, James Elliott, standing in the North Shropshire by-election as well. So we're continuing to build, because I think we need an alternative politically. So we're trying to work within the system we've got. I know some people are trying to create new systems, which I think is great, but we also need to try to work within the system we have, because that's what we have at the moment. And we've got to try to break into that with a new party. It's tough in this country with the first past the post system, but we've got to go for it. If you don't try, you won't succeed, and I'm very much hoping that we will succeed and we'll be able to get a bridgehead into Parliament, and then we'll be able to start agitating to get some of these terrible laws removed and restore our fundamental freedoms and make sure this situation never ever happens again.